Imagine an unconditional, accepting place where you can show up and just be where you are and as you are. Imagine a place where you can leave your most precious possession, a child, and know that she will be honored and understood. Imagine a place where you could go with a spiritual quandary or prayer or emotional pain and know you will get exactly what you need. There is such a place in our fellowship church in the presence of our beloved guest speaker. She is wise and strong, and her true calling is as teacher, not only to our Sunday school, but in life school. Let us prepare to be good students. It is my honor to introduce the Honorable Bernice Spencer.
Thank you, Robbie.
My pleasure.
She reminds me of the night when she asked me to babysit Abby for the first time. Can you imagine this? She was going out to a concert for the first time in 8 years. So I was keeping Abby that night, and she dropped her off about 8 o'clock and said she'd be back about 11:30 or so. And you see all of the energy that Abby had. She ran me ragged. And I had run out of all of the things that she could do by herself that I didn't have to participate in. So finally, I was reduced to my cell phone, letting her play games on the phone. So thank God, all of the batteries ran out. So I plugged it in on the floor and let her play on the floor, and I laid down beside her. Well, they had been texting back and forth, the mommy and her. So Robbie texted me when she was about at Pembroke, because I lived near there, to say that she would be there in a few minutes. I had fallen asleep. So Abby texts back, "She's asleep, Mom, I'll answer the door." So it reminded me of that when you said it was a safe place to leave your kid. All right. Good morning, everybody. It feels kind of odd at this time on Sunday morning to be standing in a room of adults instead of my children. But it's all good. It's all good. Now, the inspiration for my talk today comes from the Old Testament. It's Ephesians 6th chapter, 10th through the 19th verses. This is a biblical passage in part from a letter that was written by the Apostle Paul when he was in prison in 60 AD to the Christian missionaries in Ephesians. And it reads, "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, stand unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in evil days. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your foot shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Now, this biblical reference is a metaphor referring to physical armor worn in metaphorical battles. The Christian missionaries were really up against formidable odds. Ephesians was a pagan culture. For example, worshiping the goddess Diana with its ceremonial prostitution was an Ephesian trademark. Ephesians was also known as a refuge where robbers, thieves, murderers could live freely. I would say that the Christians needed more than a letter from Paul. However, I can see how putting on this full armor of God would help them to survive spiritual warfare in this pagan country. So, the full armor of God for spiritual warfare was the helmet of salvation. For one needed to shield your head in battle. For example, if Goliath had not underestimated David, a little shepherd boy, and put on his freaking helmet, he would not have sustained a fatal blow to his head. Now, in this metaphor, the Christians also needed the breastplate of righteousness to protect them from blows that might otherwise be fatal. Paul also advised the gospel of peace as footwear, because often the enemy would place dangerous obstacles in the path of advancing soldiers. The shield of truth was needed as a first line of defense because faith eliminates doubt. And don't forget the sword, which for the Christians would have been, according to Paul, the Word of God. Now, when the Christians topped this suit of armor with prayer to draw strength from God, they were properly equipped to engage in spiritual warfare in Ephesians in 16 AD. Now, fast forward from 60 AD in Ephesians to 1977 in Norfolk, Virginia, 35 years ago. Believe it or not, that is when the universe opened a portal that gave me the opportunity to become independently wealthy. That is when I was hired as the first female stockbroker at Merrill Lynch. Now, I had no idea what this entailed. It just happened to be the greatest or the biggest job offer that I was offered when I moved to town. So my mama didn't raise no fool. I took it. I didn't know a stock from a bond. Nor did I know that I would be a trailblazer for minorities in a profession that was dominated by white male good old boys. And I didn't know that I had gained entry because some other minority somewhere in the country that was qualified, they applied for the position at Merrill Lynch, was not hired, and sued. He won the lawsuit, and the bottom line was that Merrill Lynch, going forward, the Justice Department mandated that they had to hire a certain number of minorities going forward. I also didn't know at the time that I was the only applicant sent to headquarters in New York on Wall Street to spend a day being raked over the coals by the corporate psychiatrist. Now, I later find out that none of the white women who followed me had to suffer the scrutiny. Now, the manager knew that I was qualified, but because I was a double minority, he was in uncharted waters. And on Wall Street, you have to be careful about uncharted waters. You don't want to put your money in. So he needed assurance that he had hired the right person for this position. So I went on a one-day, all-expense-paid trip to New York. And at the end of my 8-hour interrogation with the shrink called my manager, gave him the results, and told him that if he did not hire me, if the manager didn't hire me, he would. So here I am. Okay. Now, okay. Now, like the early Christians, I too was faced with formidable odds in a heathen land called Wall Street, where bulls and bears roam freely, with all the cards stacked against me. I wish that I could tell you that I rose to the 1% in the country in terms of earnings like my peers, but I did not. You see, I was new. Not only was I new in town, I hardly knew how to get back from my house from work, you know. I had no connections, no contact, no idea where the money was in this town. And I was an oddity, a black female stockbroker, and heretofore, no such animal existed. So initially, I was forced to dial for dollars, calling strangers, introducing myself, and offering the services of Merrill Lynch. In so doing, I found out how prejudiced people were. There were quite a number of times when racist comments would be made over the phone by prospects not suspecting that they were talking to a black person. And unfortunately, I let it intimidate me into not going out trying to get big accounts, because I thought it was useless. Because once they saw that I was black, that they wouldn't do business with me. So for a long time, I relied on establishing my clientele from cold calls. But that's a very long and laborious process. It would take on average half dozen or more calls over time for someone to develop the trust in you that was necessary to open an account with you. Now, on one such occasion, a couple had gotten there, and they were ready to come into the office to open their account. And I saw them walking through the boardroom looking for a female on the floor. And when they got to my desk, they looked at me, and the wife whispered, "It's not that one." Only to find out that I was that one. Now, I was very empathetic, because I'm an empathetic person. And I used to feel badly when someone would come in and meet me, and their face would turn beet red because they remember racist comments that they had made over the telephone. Like I said, I truly was empathetic, and I was also forgiving if they opened the account with me. Now, I was a Baptist at the time with no metaphysical knowledge, so my only armor was prayer. I managed to barely survive by the skin of my teeth in this industry for 20 years on prayer alone. I have never prayed so long, so hard, in this lifetime or any other. It all began with a training program where for 5 months I would go into the office and study all day, 9 to 5, to take the 6-hour securities exam that would license you to sell securities. So for about half a year, that's what I did. Now, I also studied weekends, holidays, any extra time, because it was a one-shot deal. If you did not pass the 6-hour exam, you were fired. So, of course, my constant prayer was, God, please let me pass this exam for black women, for all minorities, please, Lord. So he answered my prayers. I passed. Now, interestingly enough, the universe not only opened this portal for me to get the job, but it prepared me to get the job, because a degree was required. That was one of the qualifications. They didn't care what kind, because different people will appeal to different clients. Now, I didn't have a degree. College was never an aspiration of mine. When I got out of high school, I got a good job. I was hired by AT&T. I've always had good jobs. As a matter of fact, when the universe was pushing me to get a degree, I was working at the Washington Post, had a good position at the Washington Post in DC. But suddenly at 35, I've got this burning desire to get a degree ASAP. So at 35, I find myself going to school full-time, working part-time at the Washington Post, and taking care of a household with a husband and a 4-year-old. And at the end of the schooling, I also volunteered at my daughter's school, and I was on the dean's list. It wasn't easy, but I did it. Now, the job required being patient, determined, self-motivated, because nobody really supervised or monitored you. You were free to go and come as you please, establish your clients as you please. We had a key to the front door, and the hours were supposed to be 9 to 5, but that day you got up and you decided that you wanted to visit clients, you could call in and let your assistant know that that's what you wanted to do. If you decided that you wanted to go prospecting that day to get new business, you could. If you want to entertain a client and shoot a round of golf, you could. Whatever. You also needed to have guts and moxie and be persistent. Now, none of this was a problem for me because I'm a full-fledged Capricorn. However, what I really needed was some of the metaphysical knowledge that I know today. To be considered successful at that time, one was required to generate enough commissions to earn a 6-figure income or more. And I was only making $55,000. Now, I know if my granddaddy was alive in 1977, he would have looked at me and said, "That's good money for a black gal." I know he would have said that. But success was measured by how many dollars I generated from Merrill Lynch in commissions, and not by how well I treated my clients. My clients loved me because I took good care of them. I didn't turn their accounts for excessive commissions, among other things. And as a matter of fact, when I was announcing my resignation to one of my little old lady clients, she was so upset. She said, "Girl, I was just about ready to put you in my will." Oh well. I look back now in awe that I was blessed with such an interesting, stimulating, dynamic position. As you know, the stock market is the hub of our capitalistic system. And I was there for 20 years with all the ups and downs. Very exciting. No 2 days were the same. Now, in recalling all of this, I recall that all of the guys, the men, they had membership at a private club, the Harbor Club, across the street from the office. So I joined too. And this is where they entertained their clients. One of the reasons, there was no prices on the menu. So clients could order everything without respect to price. I used to be deathly afraid to open my Harbor Club bill. Now, one of the things that I remember too about this club was that even though the membership was the same for male and female members, they had a men-only room where only the male members could go into. Women were not allowed in that room. I understood it that that's where they went to smoke their cigars and I guess curse. I don't know what they were doing in that room. That they had to have a male members room only. I do hope somebody has put a stop to that by now. Now, in addition to stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and insurance, I also sold tax shelters, like railroad boxcars on the train. I don't look like I could sell a railroad boxcar, but I did. And I clearly remember in 1977, The going price for a railroad boxcar was $52,000, and that generated a very nice commission. I also sold shelters that had land in Hawaii, oil and gas shelters, and Hollywood movies, interestingly enough. Now, to the would've, should've, could've part of my talk. I would have been very successful if I knew a fraction of the metaphysics that I have learned since then. For instance, at the time, I didn't know that the universe could open doors that were only for me, and that the universe could open doors where there were walls, even though I was a black woman operating in a white man's world. I would not have been intimidated if I knew this, or that I didn't have to break these barriers by myself. If only I had known that I have spirit guides that would have supported me, inspired me, and guided me, as well as a legion of ascended masters like Madam Lady Kuan Yin, the ascended masters and angels, archangels. I didn't know that fear puts dust in your eyes and hides these mighty spiritual forces can assist you. I knew nothing of meditation, and it could have relieved all of the stress that I endured for so many years in a highly stressful position. And at that time, I did not know that I could have ensured my prosperity by tithing. But all is not lost. In an article in our newsletter week before last, Grace DePon, is that her name? Grace DeRon, okay, said that Paul Solomon said that acceptance is extremely important in our evolutionary journey, that we need to accept our past and our present just as they are, without wishing that they were different. After all, we create our own reality. We've created it, and as they say, it is what it is. So it's important to accept it. So I accept my past failure, and I'm now focusing on the present. As you know, humanity has grown by leaps and bounds since 860 AD, and so has our spiritual warfare and my knowledge of it. So, at present, as director of the Sunday school, my mission is to educate our children at an early age to know who they are, why they are here, and what life is really all about. And my vision is children with an illumined consciousness who know their purpose in life at an early age and are equipped to fulfill that purpose and to serve humanity, to make it a better place to live. And if the universe offers them an extraordinary opportunity, they are ready and able to take full advantage of it. So help me God. Now, I have two pieces of memorabilia here. My best one, I left at home trying to pick up mail over here. I saved my proverbial Wall Street blue pinstripe suit that the men wore that was traditional. And my suit was one up on the men. Not only did I have the pinstripe jacket and vest and pants, but I had a pinstripe shirt. I have no idea where I found it, but I had it, and I wanted to show it to you today. Now, it is about 5 sizes smaller than I am today. But no, I'm a child of an expansive universe, so I expanded. Now, one of the things is an article that was written about me about that time, and one is a few of the pioneering ladies taken recently. And we want to take a look at that. Now, in closing, my soul salutes your soul. I honor the place within you where the entire world, universe resides. I honor the light, the love, the truth, the beauty, the peace that is within you, because it is also in me. And in sharing these things, we are united. We are the same. We are one. Namaste.